Good afternoon. I am Kim Melnick, School Board Chair, and the administrative, informal, and workshop session of this meeting of the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia is hereby convened at 3:36 on this 30th day of April 2024. At this time, I will ask Madam Clerk to please tally the roll. Please note I am without a laptop for the moment.
Me too. It says something is not right.
Oh, so something is not right on mine too.
Something's not right.
Okay, Madam Chair, present in the school board chamber is Ms. Brown, Mr. Callen, Vice Chair Franklin, Chair Melnick, Ms. Owens, Ms. Riggs, Ms. Anderson, and Ms. Kendrick.
Thank you, and for the record, Mr. Culpepper will not be with us this evening for a work matter. Ms. Weems will not be with us for a personal matter, and Ms. Manning has a work obligation, but said she would join us for the formal meeting. Okay, and with that, first, administrative matters. The first thing is, I will start the May meetings with the superintendent sheet. So I'll go to the right this time, and we'll get that back around to this side. The next thing is, right before the meeting, I put some paper, I handed you all out some papers, and that was the school board retreat and abridged meeting proposed agenda. If you all could take a look at this at your leisure, but relatively quickly, not right now, but get back to me if you have any changes or additions. I would greatly appreciate that so that we can give this to staff and get this finalized. Okay. Does anybody else have anything for administrative matters? Ms. Anderson.
So I was at a meeting recently, and a chorus came up to sing the Star Spangled Banner, and I'm standing there thinking about how beautiful it sounded with these high school students singing the Star Spangled Banner, and it occurred to me that, we've had a lot of talk and interest in do we appreciate our fine arts facilities that we have in Virginia Beach? Do we really appreciate them? And so it occurred to me that it might be to our benefit and to the music, all the music teachers' benefits across the city, that if we started having maybe once a month, just choose different high schools and have either their chorus or part of their chorus come and sing the Star Spangled Banner at the beginning of our meeting, of our formal meeting. And then we could still say the Pledge of Allegiance. I just think it would be something great to have, and it would highlight our chorus departments, would show that, we do appreciate them. We've been questioned about that recently, but not just that. I just think it would be something that, bringing those students in and letting them perform this Star Spangled Banner once a month. First I thought we'd do it maybe every meeting, but then, maybe once a month might be better. So, I'd like to start this as soon as possible. I think it's something that is really needed, and we need to showcase our fine arts departments, and so that's what I'd like to see happen.
So that's a formal request from a school board member, Dr. Robertson. So I guess we will hand this over to you and staff to discuss, and perhaps you could bring us back a recommendation?
Certainly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Ms. Riggs.
I have a request to speak about a committee concern. I sent this in an email earlier, but I'm asking Chair Melnick and Vice Chair Franklin. I'm writing to formally ask to be removed from the Legislative Committee effectively immediately. This decision has not been easy, but made after careful consideration. Unfortunately, recent developments have brought to light what I believe to be a conflict of interest involving a colleague on the school board. As much as I've attempted to navigate the situation, With professionalism, integrity, it has become increasingly clear that continuing in my current role would compromise these principles. Despite my efforts to address the issue at the last meeting, April 23rd, 2024, of the Legislative Committee, I find myself unable to maintain the level of trust and collaboration to fulfill my duties effectively. On March the 25th, a representative from the School Board Member Alliance sold its policy writing services to the York County School Board. It is part of an overall business model employed by the School Board Member Alliance. I have no issues with that or their model. The issue that I do have is that this sales representative is a member of this very school board and our legislative committee. In the legislative committee meeting on April 23rd, 2024, the members spoke of going through the VSBA legislative positions and using this body to publicly reject the VSBA's positions. Remember, this is an organization that is in direct competition with the School Board Member Alliance, competing for members and dollars. Although our school board colleague could argue that she does not have a financial interest in the purchase of policy writing legislative services, she is a director and founding member of the SBMA. A prohibited interest does not have to be limited to simply a financial or fiduciary one. Elected officials and employees should avoid, at bare minimum, the appearance of impropriety. When I asked about this at the last committee meeting, I was simply told that the Commonwealth's attorney had cleared the school board member and that the information was public information and I could request it. If a member of this body is in need of permission from the Commonwealth's attorney to engage in activities, then this body has a right to know. On Friday, April 26th and Monday, April 29th, I asked that all documents related to our colleagues' association with the School Board Member Alliance, financial and legal, to be released. The school board member has never responded, so I contacted the Commonwealth's attorney directly. We, the school board, are unaware of whether the individuals or entities involved have complied with relevant policies, regulations, and legal requirements regarding conflicts of interest. This could include internal division policies, regulations, or legal standards. On Thursday, April 26th, I attended the VSBA Tidewater Regional Spring Conference. At that meeting, I was told by a York County School Board member that their school board rescinded their contract with SBMA due to an exclusive clause, meaning a school board would no longer be able to participate in the SBA. SBMA does not represent full school boards. It is a private membership for like-minded school board members. Many school board members, as well as some school board attorneys, have attempted to join but have been denied membership. This would remove the opportunity for the school board attorneys, clerks, and other school board members to participate in their required professional development provided by SVBA. VSBA, sorry. And for these reasons, I cannot in good faith serve on this committee and have a part in dismantling public education. Thank you for your consideration, Chair and Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so tonight in workshop, we will start with our water testing program, and we'd like to welcome Patrick Fitzpatrick, Assistant Director of Environmental Resources with the Office of Maintenance Services. Well, welcome Jack Freeman first.
Hello, good afternoon. So I just wanted to start off to introduce Pat to the group. It's been a while since we were in front of the board presenting about our water testing program. And during those conversations that led up to that final one, we told you that we were on path to have a model water testing program, and we have that. We far exceed the requirements for our water testing, and we continue to improve on a regular basis. So Mr. Pat Fitzpatrick is our Assistant Director for Environmental Resources. He's going to walk you through what our water testing program is, and then we'll take your questions from there. So with that, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Good afternoon, School Board Chair, School Board members, and Superintendent Dr. Robertson. I am Patrick Fitzpatrick. I'm the Assistant Director of Environmental Resources in the Office of Maintenance Services. Today's presentation provides an Update on our current VBCPS water management programs. Virginia Beach City Public Schools is responsible for providing safe and clean drinking water essential for the health and well-being of students and staff. To achieve this, we have developed a series of water management programs. The primary purpose of our water management programs is to ensure the safety and quality of drinking water in our school buildings. The VBCPS water management programs are the Legionella Water Management Program and the Lead in Drinking Water Testing Program. First, I will discuss Legionella and our Legionella Water Management Program. Legionella is a waterborne bacteria. Human exposure to Legionella bacteria contaminated aerosolized water droplets may cause Legionnaire's disease, a potentially serious pneumonia-type respiratory illness. HVAC cooling towers present the most likely potential source for exposure. The cooling towers are well-maintained and chemically treated to prevent the growth of bacteria. At most schools, cooling towers are remotely located away from building occupants and pose minimal risk for exposure. People most at risk for illness from Legionella bacteria exposure include the following: those over the age of 50, those with a weakened immune system, those with lung disease, those with underlying illnesses such as diabetes, emphysema, or kidney disease, smokers, and cancer patients. We have partnered with the Virginia Department of Health, Virginia Beach Department of Public Utilities, other regional school divisions, and environmental consulting professionals to develop and implement a comprehensive plan with the intent to control the growth of bacteria in VBCPS water systems. The Legionella Water Management Program includes 3 significant water management activities. Number 1, the residual chlorine testing. The primary water testing activity consists of monthly testing of representative residual chlorine levels in school buildings to ensure that chlorine levels are adequate to maintain good water quality and prevent the growth and spread of bacteria. Number 2 is our Legionella bacteriological water testing. The second water testing activity consists of semi-annual testing for the presence of Legionella bacteria in HVAC cooling tower systems. And please note the HVAC cooling tower example photograph displayed on this slide. Number 3 is our flushing plan. We have developed and implemented a water flushing plan to promote safe water quality, to reduce the possibility of Legionella bacteria growth, and reduce the potential buildup of lead levels in drinking water. Flushing of the interior plumbing of a school building serves to displace and expel stagnant potable water. Flushing is a recommended practice primarily to maintain microbial and aesthetic water quality, and water flushing may indirectly help control leaching of lead from plumbing materials. And I just turned off my... Now that we have completed an overview of Legionella and our Legionella Water Management Program, I will discuss the lead in drinking water testing program. Lead is a naturally occurring heavy metal element. Lead was used in modern plumbing systems and was frequently used in lead pipes, faucets, fixtures, and solder materials used to assemble and attach plumbing system components. Lead was commonly found in lead-based paints used in residential community housing built before 1978. Lead was also used in gasoline and various consumer products, including toys, jewelry, and other everyday items and materials. Lead is a toxin, and lead exposure can be dangerous to humans. Children are most susceptible to the effects of lead because their bodies are still undergoing development, and they tend to absorb more lead from the environment. Lead exposure can have detrimental health effects, including delayed growth and development, reduced IQ and attention span, hearing and speech problems, learning and behavior difficulties, and in severe cases, elevated lead exposure can lead to seizures and death. Now that we have completed an overview of Legionella in our water, Now that we have completed an overview of Legionella in our water management program, I will discuss the lead in drinking water testing program. And I did that. Because there are some new board members, I will provide a brief background of our previous lead in drinking water testing activities. In response to new state legislation, in July of 2019, we established a lead and drinking water program. The program involved development and implementation of a plan to test drinking water from high-priority sources as identified by the EPA. In 2019, we began testing of 33 schools with an initial emphasis on testing of schools built before 1986. Prior to the start of the testing event, we consulted with Virginia Department of Health, Office of Drinking Water, concerning our plans for water testing. In 2011, changes to the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act, the EPA reduced the permissible lead content in drinking water plumbing components and materials from 8% to 0.25%. These changes went into effect in 2014. Based on EPA regulatory changes for the manufacture of plumbing products, mandatory reductions in lead content resulted in reduced potential for lead exposure from plumbing materials. For this reason, school buildings constructed after 2014 were excluded from the lead and drinking water testing requirements. During the 2019 testing event, we identified some challenges and learned valuable lessons. As a result of these challenges, we have developed and implemented a model lead and drinking water testing program. As part of the 2019 lead and drinking water testing plan, we relied on EPA guidance. The VPCPS lead and drinking water program is based on EPA guidelines in the document 3 Ts for reducing lead in drinking water in schools and child care facilities. This document generally is referred to as the 3 Ts. The 3 Ts stands for training, testing, and taking action. Training involves school officials raising awareness of the 3 Ts program and summarizes the potential causes and adverse health effects of lead in drinking water. Testing of drinking water in schools to identify potential lead problems and taking action by performing the appropriate actions to reduce lead in drinking water. The 3 Ts training. VBCPS has developed a pamphlet that informs families and staff of environmental lead exposure and mitigation strategies to reduce exposure. In addition to information on lead in drinking water, the pamphlet also includes information on lead exposure risks from damaged and deteriorated lead-based paints and lead-contaminated soil in older housing. This pamphlet was provided to all schools, staff members, and families and is currently available on the Safe Water Initiative webpage. In accordance with the 3 Ts, the following information is a detailed description of the complex step-by-step process for lead in drinking water testing regarding testing and taking action. 3 Ts testing. Create a site-specific sample location diagram and assign unique sample location numbers for each intended testing source. Establish a proposed testing event date. Agree on an acceptable testing event date with the school principal. Report the testing date to the Department of Communications and Community Engagement, DCCE. DCCE will utilize Parent Square, an established electronic notification system, to communicate the scheduled testing event to the school staff and student community. A lead and drinking water testing contractor will perform the water testing activity. Collected representative of lead and drinking water samples are submitted to an accredited laboratory for analytical testing and analysis, and completed testing results are received within 3 weeks. 3 Ts taking action. Testing results are reviewed, and any testing results exceeding 10 parts per billion are identified for initiation of appropriate remediation action. The elevated sample source is temporarily secured using appropriate signage and/or disabling of the water source. The principal and appropriate staff are notified of any elevated testing result and the plan for remediation and retesting. Elevated sample location remediation actions are completed. Remediation location retesting is performed. Remediation and retesting efforts continue until results less than or equal to 10 parts per billion are achieved. DCCE uses Parent Square to deliver communication of final clearance of the water testing event, and if applicable, notification of successful remediated water sources with initial testing results greater than 10 parts per billion. DCCE E, post all testing event schedule and remediation actions information on the VBCPS Safe Water Initiative webpage, and all lead and drinking water testing event reports, plans, fixture location diagrams, and analytical testing results are sent to the Virginia Department of Health, Office of Drinking Water, for their review and records retention. Here's information on the status of our lead and drinking water testing program. Virginia Beach City Public Schools has completed lead and drinking water testing for all schools built on or before 2014. In September of 2023, we began retesting of 19 school sites from the original round of tested started in 2019. All applicable schools have been scheduled into a 5-year testing rotation for the retesting of lead and drinking water, where approximately 20% of our schools are tested annually. I want to reiterate, the 3 Ts will continue to serve as our guide for testing until further guidance is provided by the Virginia Department of Education. Once again, we refer to the 3 Ts diagram. The circle diagram depicts the 7 steps of the 3 Ts regarding training, testing, and taking action. The training steps are number 1, communication of the 3 Ts, and number 2, learning about lead and drinking water. The testing steps are number 3, planning the 3 Ts program, number 4, developing a testing samples collection plan, and number 5, conducting water testing and interpreting the testing results. The taking action steps are number 6, remediation of elevated sources, and number 7, record keeping. In conclusion, recently, the Virginia Department of Health, Office of Drinking Water, sent communications regarding the requirement for submission of lead and drinking water testing plans and water testing results to all school and daycare organizations throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. We responded to the request by reporting that all lead and drinking water plans and water testing results had consistently been reported to the VDH, Office of Drinking Water, Norfolk branch, since implementation of our water testing program in 2019. Virginia Beach City Public Schools has developed and implemented strong professional, science-based water management programs to ensure that the water quality in our buildings is safe, clean, healthy, and free of harmful chemicals, bacterial growth, and other conditions that could put the school division community at risk. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Well, it looks like, Mr. Jameson, there's no MC for you, so come on up, and we look forward to your report on the mental health update. And we welcome Robert Jameson, Executive Director of the Office of Student Support Services.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let's see if we- Well, I'm going to repeat myself as I go to the script. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Melnick, Vice Chair Franklin, members of the school board, and Dr. Robertson. My name is Robert Jameson, Executive Director for the Office of Student Support Services, and I'm here today to provide an update on the current mental health initiatives in Virginia Beach City Public Schools. For today's presentation, we will review current needs and challenges related to mental health, provide an update on suicide risk assessment data from the school division, share information from the Mental Health Task Force, outline the work planned for the school-based mental health grant awarded to the division in January, and discuss next steps. The data in the first 3 bullets come from the American Academy, of Pediatrics in 2023. 1 in 5 Virginia youth experienced a major depressive episode in the past year. 7% of youth in Virginia have a substance use disorder. And suicide continues to be a leading cause of death in youth aged 9 to 18. These data continue to be the most up-to-date information to share regarding mental health statistics. In June 2023, I reported the table on the bottom left as a summary for the 22-23 school year. Through March 29th, 2024, the table on the bottom right reflects the total number of suicide risk assessments completed by school counselors this school year. Give a second just to see those totals. Given last year serves as our baseline, we do not have longitudinal data from previous years. However, we are trending in a positive direction. At this pace, we will complete less suicide risk assessments than last school year, and we believe the new, and new as in over the past year, resources such as Care Solace, Rapid Response, and the Bridge program are positively impacting our data, and more data on these resources will be shared on subsequent slides. Many of the updates I shared today come from the work of this year's Mental Health Task Force. This year, as in previous years, the task force is comprised of students, parents, teachers, school board members, Mrs. Owens and Mrs. Weems, community mental health service providers, community stakeholders, school administrators, counselors, and central office administrators. On the slide, you see the logos of the community organizations who participated. I want to take this opportunity to thank all participating members. Their hard work, passion, and willingness to contribute continue to be amazing, and a special shout out to those who have been to the meetings know that Ms. Martha Crawford serves as an integral member and leader of our Mental Health Task Force. And please note, originally the Mental Health Task Force served as an extension of the Blue Ribbon Panel from several years ago. However, now the Mental Health Task Force also provides updates to the Virginia Beach Safety Task Force led by Dr. Robertson, Mr. Jack Freeman, and city officials. The 10 recommendations confirmed with the school board in August 2021 are grouped according to the barrier they address and continue to guide the task force organizational structure. I'll give a second just to review some of those. For updates and accomplishments, we will begin with the Access Work Team. The division is partnering with Child and Youth Behavioral Health Services from Virginia Beach to offer rapid response services to elementary students and their families. These services ensure families are connected with appropriate resources available through the city. Since the beginning of the school year, we have processed 46 rapid response referrals, and for comparison purposes, Child and Youth Behavioral Health processed 92 referrals last school year. Please note, we are now receiving and responding to referrals from the Preschool Assessment Center to strengthen our early intervention and wraparound services efforts. Like last year, we are partnering with CHKD to offer a Bridge program to secondary students. The Bridge program provides services to students who are demonstrating behaviors that may indicate the need for behavioral health screening, short-term intervention, care coordination, and/or referral to ongoing services in the community. This school year, we have received 78 CHKD Bridge program referrals. And during the 22-23 school year, we have processed 111 referrals. So additionally, through the Bridge program, we are offering wellness up camps, or we offered wellness up camps last summer, and throughout this school year for middle school students, we have done the same. We organize these camps for staff-selected or parent-referred middle school students as a way to help address social-emotional, behavioral, and/or mental health needs. The camps were free, led by CHKD staff, and covered the following topics of self-esteem, stress management, and relationship skills. For numbers purposes, this past summer, we had 24 students participate in the program, and we have had several of our middle schools have the opportunity to have these wellness camps offered this year. Through our Department of Technology, Securely provides a variety of filters and technologies to help ensure a safe digital environment for students. Securely staff alerts us when students submit content that suggests a threat to harm self or others. During school hours, these alerts are received and addressed by Security and Emergency Management, as well as school staff. After school hours, Security and Emergency Management have responded to these concerns 24 hours a day, on nights, weekends, and holidays, with the help of CHKD for the mental health-related concerns. They have received 211 Securely alerts after hours so far this year, and CHKD has helped to respond with 43 of these, leading to the completion of immediate risk assessments for suicide, creation of safety plans, well checks from VBPD, and referrals to emergency services. Beginning the week of May 23rd, 2023, as you may recall, VBCPS did a soft launch of the Care Solace platform. Through Care Solace, families have direct assistance to navigate the mental health care system. Care Solace staff will help them find a provider, schedule their appointment, and follow up after their first appointment to ensure their needs have been met. This resource is available to every VBCPS student and anyone who resides with a VBCPS student. Furthermore, Care Solace services are available for any VBCPS employee, along with anyone who resides with the employee. The totals on this slide and the remaining slides showing Care Solace data account for activity on the site between July 1, 2023 and April 11th, 2024. So as we look at the Care Solace data in a little more detail, this chart displays the total number of hours saved by having Care Solace staff lead care coordination services for our families and staff. In addition to time saved, the resource makes scheduling appointments and securing needed help securing needed help more accessible for students, staff, and families. From a quick math, I'm gonna challenge myself, I think we're at 1,057 hours have been saved through this platform. This slide outlines some of the key performance indicators in the form of requests from the community, communications from Care Solace, and warm handoffs from schools to Care Solace. There are a few terms and numbers I would like to highlight. The inbound interactions are communications received from the VBCPS community, and March has our highest total, or monthly total, at 1,242 communications. Warm handoffs are the cases where VBCPS staff helped facilitate the connection between families and Care Solace. Since July 2023, there have been 897 warm handoffs, helping us reach the total appointments to care at 509 that you see in the bottom right. This table outlines some of the demographics for those who access the site and utilize the resource. As you can see, early adolescence or early childhood, ages 3 to 11, make up the majority of our cases at 54%. But I do want to note that it's been a growing trend for the adults that you see listed in terms of age on the left-hand side has been growing. Where it was roughly around 3 to 6%, we're now, as of April 11th, at 9%. This table provides data on the presenting concerns leading to the need for support. Almost 35% of all cases have been anxiety-related, and roughly 33% have been related to depression. Approximately 25% involve trauma, and around 22% relate to disruptive behaviors. Each case can have multiple areas of concern checked, so the combination of these percentages exceeds 100%. So just wanted to give you context as to what's typically checked off when a case is being submitted to Care Solace. The top 10 providers on this slide fulfill 50% of the 509 appointments coordinated through Care Solace. Through this platform, we continue to be made aware of mental health service providers in our area who are supporting the Virginia Beach community. Have to admit, we continue to be introduced to new mental health care providers in our area, and we're building a stronger network by having Care Solace in place. The Awareness Work Team has focused on providing a variety of activities for schools in the community. The Great Kindness Challenge, held in January, and Virginia Kindness Week, held in February at the elementary level, served as proactive initiatives, and schools were invited to participate in these events. The Office of Student Support Services shared resources and provided opportunities for staff, especially our school counselors, to collaborate on creative ideas for these weeks. Depicted at the bottom of the screen is a kindness bingo card from one classroom activity, and to the right is a picture of the school counseling team, with their intern at the time, at Newcastle Elementary School. They did a school-wide competition to see which grade level could complete the most acts of kindness after they led classroom lessons on the meaning of kindness with examples. As you can imagine, from a climate and culture standpoint, very rewarding. And I just recently saw a 2.5-minute video where that led to after-school activities related to kindness. They had a cheering section. You can share it later if you need a warm and fuzzy. But in July 2023, school counselors and health and PE teachers collaborated to create new mental health lessons for this school year. These lessons are required by the VDOE as they are part of the health curriculum. Beginning in 6th grade, students experience lessons on mental health and wellness, recognizing feelings and emotions, promoting help-seeking behaviors, knowing the warning signs for depression and suicide, and practicing healthy coping skills. And these lessons through health run from grade 6 through grade 10, or health and PE 2. To build awareness about resources available to staff, the Mental Health Task Force is supporting the Consolidated Benefits Be Well program by linking them with various staff groups to provide presentations on resources and the Employee Assistance Program, or EAP. From new educator orientation to teacher assembly and principal meetings, these resources have been shared with a variety of staff groups, and we will be working to provide presentations for non-instructional staff groups in the months to come. Through our commitment to make the community more aware of mental health resources, representatives from mental health service providers set up tables at events such as College Night, College Options for Military Students Night, and our on-site admissions and career program. These tables were rather popular at each of these events, and we strategically placed them with other participating schools and community stakeholders to decrease stigma. The identification work team wanted to increase the amount of professional learning offered to staff, and there are 2 asynchronous activities currently available for all staff: recognizing student anxiety and depression, as well as a session on youth suicide prevention. The sessions designed for school-based mental health staff continue to include youth mental health first aid training, and also this year featured applied suicide intervention skills training, the world's leading suicide intervention skills training program. As part of the Grief Sensitive Schools Initiative, VBCPS receives free professional learning, and school-based mental health staff participated in a professional learning activity in February on how to better support those who are grieving as members of our division's crisis teams. Furthermore, the Office of Student Activities collaborated with Student Support Services to provide mental health training for athletic coaches, along with student activities coordinators. The Caring Conversations presentation was the selected activity for coaches and coordinators, and the positive feedback from staff has led us to organize more sessions going into the summer and next school year. The identification team worked with CHKD to create a brochure on anxiety, given its prevalence, and this document is available for teachers, school-based mental health staff, central office staff supporting students, and we anticipate sharing the brochure through other modes of communication in the weeks to come. Before I forget, and just as a highlight, May is Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, so you will see some additional pieces in our newsletter and on social media related to mental health. I do want to take the time and thank the board for supporting the addition of 3 behavior intervention specialists. The ability to expand the supports provided by our BISs, as we call them, impacts the well-being of our students, staff, and families. Additionally, given the nationwide shortage of school psychologists, the Office of Student Support Services created psychometrist positions and hired 5 on temporary employment agreements for this school year. The psychometrists participate in meetings, conduct evaluations and assessments, and provide services to students under the supervision of our licensed school psychologists. These positions serve as a pipeline for filling our full-time psychologist vacancies, and we anticipate being able to hire 4 of them as full-time school psychologists for the 24-25 school year. So thank you again for your support. The Mental Health Task Force is thankful to have support from the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. As Mr. Harris has shared with the board, the TIDE Coalition groups at each high school meet regularly to discuss a variety of topics. 11 members of the Mental Health Task Force, each assigned to a group of schools, participate in these meetings to listen, to learn, and uplift student voice. The input and feedback from students through these meetings have been invaluable when making decisions to support our school communities. As noted on the slide, most schools are concentrating on cultivating a stronger sense of belonging by building more respectful environments, examining how students treat each other every day, improving existing programs, and providing safe spaces for students to talk. The Mental Health Task Force will continue to collaborate with DEI and the TIDE Coalition groups in the 24-25 school year, given the benefits of the increased communication with students. In fiscal year 2024, the General Assembly provided funding to pilot the expansion of school-based mental health service integration through community partnerships and technical assistance to school divisions. Additionally, new funding was appropriated by the General Assembly and through Governor Youngkin's Right Help Right Now plan for school-based mental health services. Our state government and the VDOE recognize the important role schools play to effectively address student mental health. The VDOE recently reorganized and created the Office of Behavioral Health and Wellness to better align with current needs of school divisions, and the VDOE plans on issuing a statement outlining and reinforcing the need to address mental health to ensure students have the necessary conditions to achieve in school. And I really believe our Mental Health Task Force is ahead in that factor, or in that area, by being able to provide such resources as you've heard today for our families. In January, the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services awarded VBCPS almost $394,000. We will use these funds to provide professional learning opportunities on trauma-informed skills for educators, cognitive behavioral intervention for trauma in schools, and trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy training. Additionally, funds will be used to conduct family mental health classes, one-on-one teletherapy and family teletherapy sessions, and furniture and supplies for 15 calming spaces across the collection of our elementary, middle, and high schools. Virginia Beach City Public Schools is the only school in the Eastern Region to receive this grant. We have been tapped as a consultant to work with Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services to build opportunities in Hampton Roads. Our next steps include continuing the efforts shared today, specifically rapid response and bridge program services, monitoring and responding to security alerts, and conducting professional learning activities for staff. We will continue to work with DBHDS to implement the components of the school-based mental health grant, and this includes advocating for funds to carry over to the 24-25 school year so that we can continue with some of the initiatives that technically by the grant need to be done by June 30th, but we're advocating for those funds to carry over so that we can persist with those services beyond the short window we were provided. But furthermore, members of the Mental Health Task Force, along with health services staff, will meet with the Children's Specialty Group as well as Centera to explore how we can expand access to services during the school day. This partnership would simply allow telehealth appointments to occur during school hours, to limit time spent away from school, and make services more accessible to students and families. And if you've ever heard me speak, you know I'm excited about this event. We look forward to hosting the second annual Family and Student Wellness Expo at Bayside High School. This event is scheduled for Saturday, May 11th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I would just like to note, students, we heard you. We moved the time back so that they could sleep in on a Saturday and still attend our event. There will be plenty of fun, games, and activities, as well as a vaccine clinic, representatives from community agencies, and student involvement, as this year's event will feature Marlin Fest, a celebration of student activities and achievement at Bayside High School. Thank you to Troy Walton, Principal, and Lisa Corprew, Student Activities Coordinator at Bayside High School, for their help and support. And we also appreciate assistance from Mr. Freeman's team, Custodial Services, and Sam Nix, Security and Emergency Management, with Tommy DeMartini, call him Tommy D for short, as well as Tommy Shattuck, Food Services with Vika Harrison, Facilities and Transportation. Thank you, Mr. Woodhouse, and of course, JT Last for Transportation. Thank you for your support of the task force and the opportunity to present today. This concludes the presentation. I'm ready to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Okay, Ms. Owens?
Thank you. And I can't let a mental health update go forward without a question or a comment. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the work our division has done since 2019, 2020 to get here today. I really appreciate that the stats on the suicide risk assessments are now being captured and tracked and shared with the board, because I think it's important for board members who are making staffing decisions and funding decisions to have that understanding when we're looking at our counseling staff at how often they're having to do these suicide risk assessments, how much of their day, the whole thing, gets taken in with those situations. And if you only have one counseling staff member, and we saw how many elementary schools there, that it's something that I hope that we continue to keep in the back of our mind. I'm just really pleased with really all of this. I did have a question about our securely after hours.
Yes, ma'am.
Couldn't remember, is that something that we have earmarked already funding for continuing next year, that we are good to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mr. Callen?
Thank you, Mr. Jameson.
Yes, sir.
Questions on slide 3. You make reference to some interesting facts, and I'm not sure I understand exactly what they represent, so if you could help me clarify.
Sure.
1 in 5 Virginia youth experienced a major depressive episode. 20%.
Mm-hmm.
What is defined as a major depressive episode?
So you're gonna put my knowledge of the DSM on the record. With that, so I want to thank you for your question, number one. Number two, I do want to emphasize that 1 in 5 youth experiencing a major depressive episode does not mean that they were diagnosed with depression. So I want to be clear on that. A major depressive episode, typically in the DSM, you're looking at a collection of 3 or more symptoms related to depression that can then categorize based on the length of time, 1 week, 2 week, but it's not persistent, hence why they're not being diagnosed necessarily with depression. Of being withdrawn, lack of sleep, lack of eating, feeling anxious can be, or lack of connectivity with parents, friends, community. As you go through those symptoms, any student who's experiencing 3 or more of those for essentially a condensed period of time, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, can be essentially considered to have gone through a major depressive episode.
Okay. Second question, the graph at the bottom of that page makes reference to suicide risk assessment totals.
Mhm.
Can you help me understand what would be an example or what's comprised in a suicide risk assessment? Is it the same data you were just citing, or is it something different?
So a little different. So what we may see as a precursor to a suicide risk assessment being done could be the symptoms I just shared with you. The moment a student in school says that they intend to end their life, or that there is something indicating that they intend to harm themselves with the intent of ending their lives, we have protocols in place where staff need to connect with a qualified school personnel, whether that's a school nurse, school counselor, psychologist, or social worker. And then we go through a formal assessment. We use the Columbia in Virginia Beach, which is similar to what our emergency services staff do. We do the convinced screener version of the Columbia risk assessment, suicide risk assessment. So anytime a student makes those kinds of statements, whether in writing or verbally, they are then connected with a school, qualified school personnel. We then go through those formal questions, and it's the process of using those formal questions that results in the totals that you're seeing.
Are the numbers that have decreased over time, do you sense that's the increasing span between the COVID-related issues and today?
You're saying the decrease?
Well, you show from
Mhm.
22, 23 in elementary, for example,
Correct.
it's 526, and now it's 248.
I just want to make sure I heard decrease, yes. So it's a matter of collectively, as a society, we have provided more attention to this topic. We have promoted help-seeking behaviors. We have increased the amount of education we provide, especially to our most vulnerable populations, on the types of feelings that you may have. We've normalized it to a certain degree, that if you feel this way, here are some things that you can do. And so overall, I do believe the attention to it has helped to the decrease, as well as you note, last year, we still had the higher totals. Having additional supports and resources in place in the form of staff and programs are helping us from an early intervention standpoint, leading to a decreased total.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Franklin? Sorry, Ms. Brown, her thing wasn't working.
Sorry. I just wanted, I love this presentation, and I think that we're doing a great job as a division, always able to do more there, right?
Mhm.
But, so for the Student Wellness Expo, Family and Student, is that just open? Anybody from the community can come, and no RSVP is needed or anything for that?
We just want everyone to show up.
Okay, wonderful.
It was in the pilot just, I think, today, as a matter of fact, the community section. We put out now 3 division-wide alerts.
Okay.
We have reached out to the principals within the Bayside corridor, so anyone in that feeder pattern, so that they can promote it a little bit differently of saying, hey, this is in your area, right down the street, please come. But open, no need to register. When you come, there will be a quick QR code that you can scan, and that's how we'll track, to a certain degree, attendance,
Okay.
but wide open for anyone to come and participate.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brown?
Okay, and so I echo a lot of the comments of my colleagues. I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing in progress in this area.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the Columbia risk assessment, and I looked this up. This is a 3-page thing, but you mentioned it was condensed.
We do the screener version, so we do the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale screener,
Okay,
and that's only 6 questions. And in Virginia Beach, I color coded it several years back to make it a little more accessible to our staff to understand the heightened sense of concern when things come through or when they're conducting the assessment.
And what prompts that assessment to occur?
So and we could choose whichever age group. The most common time that we see it, student hangs back after class, or a teacher asks to see a student after class, and they make a comment of, just checking in, how you doing? And they may say, similar to your question about a depressive, I've been feeling sad lately. What do you mean? I just can't kick that thought, so to speak. I just don't want to live anymore. Simple as that. That statement right there would prompt us to put our protocols in place.
So it would be a specific statement. It wouldn't be, I got something I can't kick. It's that last part, right?
It's a combination. It could
Okay.
be a lot of different things that they say.
Okay.
But anything, and I will tell you, we err on the side of caution.
Right.
So even when teachers in the beginning of the year, our school counselors during that in-service week will do like a 30-minute, here's a quick reminder of what our suicide risk assessment protocols are. Here are the people that you should be looking for. If you hear anything related to this, you need to come find me. If even certain or not certain, just come find me. The worst case is that we put more resources in place than are needed. So it could be a variety of comments that get made, but anything indicating that they want to hurt themselves, especially hurt themselves with the intent of ending their lives, those could be two separate ones, but we still treat them the same. They're going to meet with someone that day.
Thank you. And I don't know if I'm the only one that would like it, but I would like to be able to see the 6 questions that we're asking, if you wouldn't mind sending that to me.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jameson, would you mind, maybe for Ms. Kendrick, or for any parent watching now or maybe later, explaining again the Securely update and the alert, how we receive the after-hour alerts, and then those 43 alerts that were related to mental health?
Sure. There's a variety of ways. So obviously on any school-issued device, or if you're on our network and we're able to see how things are being transmitted via email, via a direct text-to-text communication, or even an assignment that's submitted. There's software screening what's being submitted or what's being communicated. If it's after hours, Securely has just their general team and an algorithm that pings on certain words being in there. Death, kill, harm, hurt. If it has that, and again, it's an algorithm that starts it, it immediately gets elevated to a different team within Securely. That team then tries to, again, they err on the side of caution, put it in context of were they doing a research paper on suicide? Was it a research paper on depression? And they rule that out, then they have a contact list that we have provided them in security and emergency management. So they receive the information first, whether during the school day or after hours. During the school day, they do a quick investigation. Where is the student in school? Where do they attend school? And they immediately contact the principal. After school hours, they're going to be contacting home. But the step that we put in between is that they actually alert the CHKD staff to then make the phone call home. Because what we found in previous years was that someone without a mental health background was calling the family to alert them about a mental health issue, and the family was essentially just handing that person the phone, or the student the phone, like, well, you speak to him, or speak to her or them. And they're not equipped to address that. So that's where CHKD comes in, and they're able to have a different kind of conversation with the student and the family, and then walk them through the next steps for support, given the fact that it's after hours. Well,
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ms. Owens?
It's my last comment, but I did want to just share, because we had questions about those suicidal assessments and, what's being asked and how many times we're doing these. And that since I've been on the board, unfortunately, there has not been 1 year that we haven't lost one or more of our students to suicide. Others who've attempted and weren't able to complete it. And as a board, I think that we don't even have a good grasp on what the total number is, because there's not something in place that notifies us when a student in the district commits suicide. Part of it because it's the family's business and It's not something that necessarily comes up the pipe, but frequently we do get information on that, and we are losing too many students. I would love to have a year, and I don't know that I'm going to make it on the board that long, but a year that the board can sit through a full school year and not lose a student to suicide. So I'm so happy that we are making steps in a way that no other division in our area is.
If I may add, this was just 3 weeks ago. We had a high school student who was 16, I'll try to limit the amount of information I share here, but his parents are not his caregivers. His grandparents are not his caregivers. He has a different relative serving as a caregiver. Well, that 16-year-old ran away. The caregiver reported it to the police, reported it to the school. Schools alerted that that person obviously was a runaway. And there was, as you can imagine, in that person's life, there's some trauma, there's concerns with mental health. Caregiver received a phone call from the school when the student showed up to school that next time. It was not the next day, but that next time. So we followed protocol in making sure, hey, we have this person. They appear to be safe. In that conversation, the caregiver shared, I'm at a loss as to what I'm supposed to do. Worried for him, really thinks he needs to see a school psychologist. And as that conversation went on, she was kind of hearing that the school psychologist would not be available that moment. And she was upset, as you can imagine. But what we ended up doing was actually connecting her with the Bridge program, the young man with the Bridge program, so that he would get the 10 to 12 sessions, not just a one-time interaction with a school psychologist. Don't get me wrong. School-based team is right there. Counselor, psychologist, social worker to provide support. But now after hours, he has ongoing support that could lead to a referral to something else down the line. So from a system standpoint, that's the type of work that we're doing. So thank you for your support of this, because I do believe, although we're looking to have 0 in a given school year, that we're in a better place with the things that we're doing to support our families and students. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for your leadership in this area. Clearly, the benefits to our community are visible, they are known, and everyone is benefiting from your hard work and your team, and I really thank you for that.
Thank you.
Clearly, since we have that grant also, I mean, that's
We're gonna
to be
spend
the
that
only
money,
one
yes.
who got, yeah, kudos.
Thank you again.
Okay, and our next workshop is the Professional Learning Annual Update, and we welcome Dr. Janine Gorham, Director of Professional Growth and Innovation.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Melnick, Vice Chair Franklin, members of the board, and Dr. Robertson. This afternoon's workshop will provide an update on professional learning for the 23-24 school year and a preview for the 24-25 school year. Professional learning is a responsibility shared among all central support departments as well as our school leaders, and I'm proud to be able to share our collective work. I would like to start with sharing information on professional learning for instructionally licensed staff, primarily teachers, our largest employee group. The Virginia Standards of Quality require divisions to provide a professional learning program to not only support staff's licensure requirements and growth, but as a necessary component of a high-quality instructional program. If you reflect on the many presentations and workshops you have listened to, including the mental health update that preceded this one, you will recall the consistent inclusion of professional learning in the implementation of our programs and initiatives. Our professional learning program for teachers is commonly called PLP. The PLP is aligned to 3 drivers, which influence the content of professional learning. First, the supported division goals found in the strategic framework, Compass to 2025. Second, the specific and unique goals and needs of each school found in their plan for continuous improvement. And third, the goals and learning needs of the individual teacher. All of these contribute to our shared goal of positive student outcomes. PLP consists of 3 main components. Essential professional learning is required professional learning and is often differentiated by teaching assignment. Choice sessions are those that extend and enrich learning from essential sessions and serve to build capacity based on individual needs. The third component is site-based professional learning. These activities are determined by the school principal and are designed to align to the needs of the school and the individual needs of teachers. It is important to note how critical the site-based component is, because that is where ongoing support occurs, whether it is through coaching, collaboration during professional learning communities, or when central support staff, such as the Department of Teaching and Learning, coordinators and specialists, come into buildings to provide support and customized professional learning. To summarize and connect all three components, you can consider the essentials, the foundation that launches additional learning determined by individual teacher need or school need, which might be provided through site-based learning or through division choice sessions. To provide you an idea of the scope and volume this year, as of mid-April, we provided 1,267 activities with 35,081 enrollments, representing 7,357 staff members who participated. These numbers just represent the division level provided essential and choice activities. Site-based professional learning, those activities again that occur at the individual schools, are continuously entered and updated at each school site. But you can see from our current count of the number of activities that a comparable number of professional learning is occurring at the school level. I would like to call out a significant increase from last year with an increase of 12,353 enrollments, indicating a greater participation in both choice and essential professional learning. As I shared previously, one of the drivers of professional learning is to support individual growth goals and needs. To frame our discussion and review this year's professional learning, we will review professional learning activities by the needs supported through phases of career development, beginning with induction, the period of intense learning and growth experienced when beginning a career. Learning is an ongoing process in all professions, with continuous need for growth and mastery, with greater choice and more in-depth learning opportunities that finally lead to leadership. We will begin with teachers who have a very formal and prescribed induction program. Professional learning for new teachers began at new educator orientation, 3.5 days of learning focused on becoming oriented to the division, which included an introduction to their home school and sessions on instructional expectations and curriculum resources, and how to create a positive and productive learning environment. Support continued with mentoring. You will notice a difference in the number of teachers receiving mentors and those who attended orientation. All teachers who are new hires are expected to attend orientation. Only those who are new to teaching receive a mentor according to the Virginia Department of Ed mentoring guidelines. In addition, teachers who are hired after the beginning of the school year will receive a mentor if they meet that criteria. Mentors are still being assigned even at this point of the year. Those teachers will continue to receive mentoring support next year so that they will have support for a full year plus the months that they've worked during this year. Beyond mentoring, all new teachers were provided the opportunity to attend Survive and Thrive sessions quarterly and receive daily support from their school's coaches, colleagues in their departments, grade levels, and professional learning communities, and their school administrators. These school-based systems of support are important because they allow for just-in-time and individualized support based on that teacher's needs. This daily school-based support is supplemented by support from the Department of Teaching and Learning and the 3 teacher induction specialists. Specific to the needs of provisionally licensed teachers, test preparation coursework is available to help those teachers prepare for licensure exams. All of the supports referenced here will continue in the 24-25 school year, with the exception of the induction specialist, which were ESSER grant-funded positions. One way we support continual growth of all teachers is through essential or required professional learning, which prepare teachers for new expectations, often centered around curriculum, standards, and resources. These align to the division's strategic framework goals, and this alignment often shows most strongly in the essential requirements. The examples you see on this slide are not all of the essential requirements for 23-24, but do show how sessions were designed for specific teaching assignments, often down to the course, ensuring relevancy and intentional planning for what was needed for that specific group of teachers. As you can see from this sampling, this year has had a focus on strengthening instructional practice, responding to student needs, and curriculum updates and resources. Choice sessions are by design intended to support individual needs and thus address diverse topics. Like with essentials, they can be designed for specific teaching assignments, like our first example, which was for health and PE teachers. I would like to call out the second example as a professional learning community. Most professional learning communities occur at the school level, but we do offer division options for those teachers who might not have others in their position at their school. The next two examples, Cultural Competency Design Fellows and National Board Certification, are examples of deeper, long-term learning experiences. The Design Fellows were a unique opportunity for teachers this year, which provided them ongoing learning as they unpacked the knowledge and skills required for the VDOE's Framework for Cultural Competency. Their work will be used in the upcoming year's required cultural competency training. The remaining examples are short-term learning opportunities and reflect the diversity of topics available to teachers. The final phase is leadership, beginning with examples of how teacher leaders are supported for their roles. Coaches and specialists, leaders in their building, had monthly professional learning throughout the year to grow their capacity to support the learning of teachers with whom they work. Lead mentors are teachers who serve in a supplemental role organizing the mentoring program at their individual schools. They had initial professional learning during the summer and received ongoing support throughout the year. In addition, we provided professional learning for those teachers who may be seeking a new position or responsibility. For many years, we have offered aspiring administrators a 2-year learning experience for those interested in becoming an assistant principal or admin assistant. This year, we had 2 simultaneous cohorts, one finishing their second final year and a new cohort in their first year. We were very excited this year to launch a new cohort for aspiring leaders. This 1-year learning series supported school-based staff who might be interested in a path outside of school administration, perhaps to a central office, department, or non-administrative leadership role within a school building, like a school improvement specialist, coach, or department chair. This pathway focused on building greater awareness of leadership, strengthening interactions, and reflecting on their current and future impact as a leader. This pathway does not require an administrative endorsement and could be a precursor for those considering enrolling in a formal leadership program. All of the professional learning supports on this slide will continue in the 24-25 school year. We can use the same developmental framework to review professional learning provided for school administrators. Just like teachers, new principals, assistant principals, and admin assistants have an induction program complete with orientation and mentoring. In addition, this spring, OPEC offered a series for new elementary APs and admin assistants. Throughout the year, there were learning opportunities for continuous growth for all our school administrators. At the leadership conference, all administrators had both essential and choice sessions aligned to the priorities of the division's strategic action agenda and supported by research from the Wallace Foundation that identifies the skills and behaviors exhibited by successful administrators. This learning continued for principals at monthly league meetings. Both principals and assistant principals attended quarterly citywide meetings. This year, all school administrators also participated in professional learning communities, which allowed for peer-to-peer learning in the same way as teachers' PLCs. And while all professional learning for school administrators has a leadership focus, we continue to provide assistant principals who aspire to be principals with a pathway called Aspiring Principals. This year, we finished year 2 for a cohort of both elementary and secondary assistant principals. And because of the number of new elementary principals, this program was expanded to include those principals in their first year as an opportunity for additional support and learning. And all of the professional learning detailed on this slide will continue in the 24-25 year. We have thousands of other employees for which the same career development framework can be applied. For these employees, induction often occurs from the central support offices and on the job in the assigned work location. For example, the Office of Transportation Services provided training for new bus drivers, and the Department of Technology trained new technology support technicians that work in schools. Ongoing support and learning happen in much the same way for this role-specific training. As an example, the Office of Procurement Services offered professional learning for bookkeepers and other positions that use the Oracle platform. Along with role-specific skills, the Office of Professional Growth and Innovation, or PGI, offered opportunities for all employee groups through a series of on-demand podcasts and courses through the Udemy platform, a resource provided by the Department of Technology. In addition, PGI worked with Central Support's leadership to provide face-to-face professional learning during regular meetings. Leadership development for other employee groups has not always been widely available, and we continue to strive to grow these opportunities for all staff. This year, we offered leadership and management for both custodians and cafe staff. This cohort-based opportunity prepares custodians and cafe staff for leadership promotion or builds their capacity for the leadership positions they currently hold. And for the second summer, PGI offered a variety of leadership courses open to all central support staff. And finally, Advancing Leaders was a new opportunity for central support staff who wish to increase their capacity as a leader for their current role or the role for which they aspire. 14 participants from a variety of central offices developed greater awareness of leadership, strengthened their interactions, and reflected on their current and future impact as leaders. All of the professional learning on this slide will continue in the 24-25 school year. So, looking ahead to next year, we will turn our attention to what is new. As you have heard for the last few months, and in particular, the March presentation from Dr. Kelly and Mr. Quinn from the Department of Teaching and Learning, there are requirements that will dictate the essential professional learning for the next year, including new standards and the Virginia Literacy Act. In addition, divisions are required to provide training every 2 years on specified topics, and this year we must ensure staff receive seizure awareness training and cultural competency training. On this slide are some of the planned professional learning required for staff in 24-25. This is not a comprehensive list, but is intended to demonstrate the inclusion of professional learning that supports teachers' understanding and use of new standards and resources, as well as furthering the work of our strategic framework. In addition, I would like to call out the final session for all teachers, Tiered Behavioral Supports Beyond the Basics, which builds on the professional learning that teachers engaged in this year as we continue to work to build capacity of teachers to support the behavioral needs of students. To conclude this preview for next year, I want to share a new opportunity for school administrators, the first annual Summer AP Conference. This conference will be held in August and will provide an opportunity for assistant principals, admin assistants, deans, and academy coordinators to build capacity for their roles and responsibilities, strengthen networking and collaboration across schools, and provide leadership opportunities for veterans as they plan and lead sessions. This concludes the annual professional learning report, and at this time I'll be happy to take any questions.
I want to say that I'm very pleased to hear about this summer AP conference. We do have a lot of new assistant principals across the division, and from what I'm hearing from staff across the division, I think something like this is very needed. So I'm glad that our leadership, our staff has realized that we can help these assistant principals, and we can make them into the professionals that we know they can be. So I'm on the things that teachers basically have to have, their English standards and all that. Are you going to make those mandatory?
Yes, they are mandatory.
Okay. I understand why. Sometimes in the past, teachers have not liked the fact that it was mandatory, but it's not us that's dictating these changes, so I'm glad that we're doing that as well. Thank you.
Ms. Briggs?
I just have a comment. You've come a long way, baby. That's all I can say. It's been a while since I've been in, but I remember the times. And I see that it's being tailored to all of the needs of each individual group and individual. And so I'm hoping our teachers and our employees of all areas are appreciating this because of what what you guys are providing. So thank you very much. This is fantastic. And I agree with Ms. Anderson. I really like this new summer conference for the APs. That's really great. You obviously are hearing the same thing we hear. So thank you.
Anybody? Ms. Brown?
Thank you so much. I heard really great things about the conference last year, although I didn't have the opportunity to attend it. Do we have the dates on the conference for this year?
Would that be the leadership conference?
Yes, the ones that are in the presentation
Yeah.
here.
July 17, 18.
July 17th.
And the Department of Teaching and Learning's
It's August
conference
6th, and then the AP one is
is the
August
very
7th.
next day.
And board members are always invited to attend any part of that. You're
All
welcome.
right, that's great. So I'm looking here at slides 8, 9, and 10, and everything here looks really great, but it's a very bird's eye view of, and oftentimes a lot of the stuff that we look at as the school board is a bird's eye view because there's a lot of topics to cover, but when I look at the standards of quality, it says each local school board shall annually review the professional development program for quality, effectiveness, participation by instructional personnel, and relevancy to instructional needs of teachers. And that's not to say that you guys aren't doing that, but as a school board member, I don't feel like this is enough information for me to say that I have sufficiently evaluated those. And when we do these trainings, it trickles down to the students. And sort of recently, there was something scheduled at a school, and it was somehow tied to our strategic framework. And when I looked at the strategic framework, I had a different interpretation. And so I feel like it's incumbent upon me to kind of have an idea of what types of things we are offering and a list of those offerings. And then, as a fiscal steward of taxpayer dollars, I also would be curious of who we're consulting with outside of the division or compensating outside of the division for professional trainings in the Department of Teaching and Learning, as well as our instructional staff. So that would be something that I would like to get a little more information about. Thank you.
So I see there are some additions directly from the Virginia Department of Education, like cultural competency. So I'm happy to see that there, and that's also made it into the superintendent's evaluation. So happy to see all of that, but since nobody else had a question, I do want to say that leadership matters. And again, kudos to you for your leadership, because if nothing else, you see just in numbers alone how what you're doing has increased and the number of participants have increased. And if you're only looking at that alone, that's really, really impressive. And so, thank you. Okay, and so it is 4:54, which means we have time for a closed session. So at this point, we have multiple closed sessions, so I'd like to get started. So at this point, I will ask our vice chair to please read us into close.
I move that the school board recess into closed session in accordance with the exceptions to open meetings law set forth in Code of Virginia 2.2-3711, Part A, Paragraph 1, 7, and 8, as amended to deliberate on the following matters: discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, and evaluation of performance of departments or schools of public institutions of higher education where such evaluation will necessarily involve discussion of the performance of specific individuals. Consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. For the purposes of the subdivision, probable litigation means litigation that has been specifically threatened or on which the public body or its legal counsel has no reasonable basis to believe will be commenced by or against a known party. Nothing in this subdivision shall be construed to permit the closure of a meeting merely because an attorney representing the public body is in attendance or is consulted on a matter. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Nothing in this subdivision shall be construed to permit the closure of a meeting merely because an attorney representing the public body is in attendance or is consulted on a matter, namely to discuss superintendent's evaluation, CAC appointment, how to handle an open position, additional open position, retention of outside legal counsel for litigation support for administrative matter, status of pending litigation or administrative cases, consultation with legal counsel regarding probable litigation and pending litigation matters.
All right, the motion was made by Ms. Franklin. Second? Second by Ms. Ms. Kendrick, sorry. Any discussion? We have two board members, not present, but the voting board is open. Ms. Brown, I'm gonna wait for you to vote to go into closed. Ms. She's in the restroom, so.
Okay, so Madam Chair, we have 7 ayes to go into close and 1 abstention because Ms. Riggs was not present in chambers during the vote.
Okay. At this point, we will move into closed session and we're waiting for transition from VBTV.
Whereas the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Motion made by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Kendrick. Any discussion? The voting board is open.
I'm not voting on my thing, I'm gonna, because it's not coming on.
So you have an aye vote?
Yes.
Okay, so Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes for certification of close, so the motion did pass.
Okay, and so at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's evaluation instrument as presented and modified by this board in closed session. Motion made by Ms. Anderson, seconded by Ms. Owens. Any other discussion? The voting board is open.
Yes.
So Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes, so the motion did pass.
Okay, it is 5:35. We'll see everybody back in 25 minutes. Have a good dinner. Do I sign this one or she?